is intentional.
We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them.
Our own government is facilitating the absolute destruction of the American immigration system, and I can prove it point by point. I'm unafraid to speak the truth. This is just data-driven and experience-driven.
We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. But some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists.
Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism.
The Amish basically have no obesity, no infertility, no cancer, no diabetes, no metabolic syndrome. They're having 10 plus kids and they're incredibly happy. They've basically staved off every single health issue the rest of the world is dying from. Their obesity rate is only 4%, while it's 42% in the rest of America. They have the highest fertility in the world and they're doubling every 20 years. We need to be learning from them more.
Look, if vaccines are so safe, why are they the only consumer product where you cannot sue the manufacturer for injuries to claim it was made safer? It's been 1980s, it's been over 30 years they're telling you Hep B safe, Hib safe, these are safe. You still need immunity? Okay, let me tell you my definition of vaccine, Senator. It's a product that causes so much injury that it has to have liability for the injuries that it's caused, immunity for the injuries that it's causing. That's what a vaccine is. You know, we sued the CDC for the studies that support that the vaccines given in the first month of life do not cause autism. We sued them because they wouldn't give it to us. We said, give us the studies that show the meningococcal vaccine, the polio vaccine, the Hep B vaccine, the Hib vaccine, and the Hep B vaccine. Those 5 vaccines don't cause autism. You know what they provided? None. We sued them in federal court. They ended up in stipulated order. They gave us 20 studies. Not one of them has to do with those vaccines. They're all MMR or they're all thimerosal. This notion that there's a mountain of studies out there that show vaccines of autism is ridiculous. And I've heard the measles death in Texas bandied about. We represent one of those families. We've seen the medical records. One of those kids, I can tell you for certain, did not die from measles. He died from hospital malfeasance.
So aluminum is the primary target, it appears, that is causing perhaps the most harm in these injections because it is a neurotoxin, right? It's not good for any bodily system. And multiple studies now have linked it to asthma in children. They've linked it to sudden infant death syndrome because when you inject an underdeveloped baby with not a functional DTaC system, you keep injecting neurotoxins that does indeed, it appears, induce brainstem failure and thus apnea in sleep. They can't breathe and then they die. We have that, and then we do have 3 studies that link aluminum to autism or autism rates. So, yeah, this ingredient should be removed from childhood vaccines. It has no place in there. We don't need neurotoxins in these injections.
Yeah, And the peer review papers that are coming out about vaccine injury, I mean, they were already coming out at an increased rate over the last year. And we're going to see a lot more. I just got sent this past week 2 studies from 2015 that couldn't get published for fear of all kinds of retribution. And really these studies show conclusively that there are measurable differences in the blood of children before receiving the vaccine and after. And it is, these vaccines impact the immune systems of children in really significant ways. And I think for the first time, people that have been at this for decades have real hope. And we're going to see some of the information that's been hidden from us. I mean, this is just, honestly, it's truly just the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to learn. It's tough because I get sent this stuff and people are like, you know, is it time to publish it? And I'm like, we're close. We're really, really close. Bobby's confirmation is going to be that moment, that signal that all of this stuff can start coming forward without fear.
Welcome to Truth with JJ Carrell. Look at what our government has done to us. Look at it. It's getting, well, it's beyond clear. If you can't see that the enemy is our own government, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm curious to see, this is a great test show to see if I get censored and demonetized from YouTube. Why? Because Google and YouTube came out yesterday and said, yes, we're going to reinstate all of the accounts that we censored for medical disinformation. And why did we censor all those accounts? Because the federal government under Joe Biden demanded it. So our federal government censored all of this information. Not only censored, but took down people's sites. Those sites are important because people make money off of those sites. So they stole from them. And let me tell you, we go full circle on this every single time, because I go full circle because I want some justice. I want someone arrested. But no one's going to be arrested. Never. It's month 10 of Donald Trump's administration. Not one person's been arrested. Not one. Isn't it interesting, as a side note, that the gentleman that tried to assassinate President Trump was able to be arrested, indicted, put in front of a jury, convicted, is now in prison probably for life, which is great. I applaud that, all within a couple months. However, because the DOJ is sitting on Epstein, sitting on the election interference or fraud, stealing it, the billions, tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars funneled through USAID to foreign nations and foreign NGOs to bring illegal aliens to our country, the open border fiasco, all the evidence that's tied to that, all of the evidence of manipulation to destroying our Social Security number, Social Security Administration that Elon Musk has done, the showing that the majority of all the NGOs are corrupt, run through Democrat politicians, and got wealthy by billions of dollars, and yet none of them are arrested. Isn't that interesting? You think that's a coincidence? Do you think that our government is that incompetent, or do you think they're that good? I think they're that good. I think they're that evil. As that lady said at the end, they've been sitting on these studies for over a decade. Some of these studies, these vaccines, some of these Tylenol studies, they're decades old and squashed, censored. Their own companies, the own organizations, the CDC, the HHS, they're responsible for it, and they censor their own people. Why? Because they're all getting paid off. I'm going to tell you, there are days where I think there is no coming out of this. I just came off a podcast with Ann Vandersteel on a great podcast, Two Guys in a Coupe. And we had this discussion. Is the government so corrupt, so far gone, that we have to just do what Thomas Jefferson said and have a moral obligation to take it down? That is a valid question. I personally think there is no bringing our government back. I believe they are guilty of corruption and treason that we can't even fathom. I always like to say, I know what happened with the open borders because I lived it, I was there. And I'm appalled. And I know the ins and outs of it. Can you imagine, or I tell myself, can you imagine what you don't know? Can you imagine what those meetings were like? The treasonous decisions that these people made? Same thing with pharmaceuticals. We know that they are guilty of murder, of corruption and bribery inside of our federal government and those pharmaceuticals. But can you imagine what we don't know, what we're not privy to, those meetings, those discussions that those people had to have said to each other, there's babies dying. I know, but our profit is going to be over $1 billion this quarter. And your bonus is going to be $10 million, $20 million, $100 million. Okay. I guess a couple babies dying is not that big a deal. How did we get from you need a polio vaccination and maybe some other thing to now by the time a child is 3 years old, he's got 60, he's got 60, 68 shots? Are you telling me there's not collusion within the government and the pharmaceuticals? Are you telling me that we have not been censored out of our mind? Google and YouTube come out yesterday again and say, yes, we censored all these accounts and then demonetized and blow them up and erase them. Okay, we've admitted it. Now, can we move on? And everyone's like, yeah, I think we're going to be okay now. YouTube is going to be all right. They'll straighten themselves out. Google's all right. Google has a stranglehold on everything. Try and go Google something that you really love, that you really want some information on in Google, and tell me if you can get past all the sponsored stuff, all the bull crap. I Google stuff just to see, okay, I'm going to Google border arrest in this year. I get chased. I just out of fun, I just go start looking. How do I even find the truth? How do I find the truth? It takes me multiple searches of clicks and try to get to the truth. The average person is going to get the first random allotment of crap that Google puts out that lies, and they're going to assume that that's the truth. We are so broken as a society. We're corrupt and we're broken, and I don't know how we come out of it. I really don't. In fact, if you really truly press me, I will say that we can never come out of it absent two things: a revival of Christianity where it becomes dominant again in our culture, or there's a violent revolution. I don't think there's any other way. There is no other way. And I'll give you a great point of reference. Right now, Nepal is on fire. Why? Because, and tell me if this doesn't sound familiar, the elites are getting wealthy. The average citizen, especially the younger generation, the late teens, early 20s, they have to live in their parents. They have basements, their parents' apartments crammed together, no jobs, the money's worthless. They've censored them, so they can't get on the internet. They can't do anything. They're irate. So what did the younger generation do? Well, they went into the government buildings, burnt them down, chased the politicians, stripped them naked, chased them out into the street, and beat them to death. What's happened to my son's generation, the 14 to 25-year-old generation? Can't buy houses, strapped with debt. The inflation is outrageous. They're being censored. They've been told they're vile human beings for being Christians. What do you think is the manifestation of that in the future? You think it's all going to be peaches and cream? You think everything's going to be all right? They're shooting and killing Charlie Kirk. They shot the Dallas ICE facility this morning. We don't know the total of the deaths or destruction, but the engravings on the casings, the bullet casings. So then you have Gavin Newsom yesterday or this morning saying that we need to push back and fight ICE officers because ICE officers are part of the tyrannical government. We are at the point that there's going to be massive bloodshed in the streets of America. I have been saying that. I have been predicting and warning you that this is going to happen because that's the only rational outcome when you look at what has been transpiring in America the last several years. And then we have Donald Trump's great UN speech yesterday. And I'm bringing in a guest from Canada to talk to me about it. I really respect his views, and I want an outside perspective because we get kind of cocooned in America. I just get a different perspective on what I see Donald Trump saying from, quote, a foreigner looking inwards that is looking at Donald Trump and looking at what he's saying, because what Donald Trump says has a profound impact on what's going to happen in my next guest country in Canada. So I want to hear his take. Before I bring him in, the sponsor for our show is sat123.com. Sat123.com. I want you to be prepared. We talk about this every single day. Do you think that all the violence and all the chaos is going to just stop now that we had the great memorial for Charlie Kirk, his burial, everything's going to be fine? All the leftists are going to go, oh, wow, we made a mistake. We've seen our way. No, that's not going to happen. It's going to ramp up. You don't have to or you don't have to prepare under the same beliefs that I do, but you must be prepared for your family. There's the website. It's an incredible website. Just go there and see and click. Do I need this? Yeah. Do I need a sat phone to speak to my loved ones when the world's going on fire? Oh, it won't go on. Nothing's going to happen. Really? What about in Texas? What is that, 2 months ago, where all those little girls got swept away and killed? Nobody can communicate because the wires were severed. All the cables were severed. Couldn't get cell coverage. What happens when there's a shooting at your loved one's school or work? Well, what happens is law enforcement shows up and they have jammers, and they call the cell phone companies and say, jam this area. I don't want anyone to get out except our phones. 10-4. What about your little children like my son, Joseph, going to school, goes to Catholic school, goes to daily mass, just like those little kids in Minnesota, and is kneeling in the pews praying to Jesus and starts getting shot at? Does he have his backpack? My son has a ballistic backpack. You don't think they need that? Ask the ICE officers that were just shot today or shot at in Dallas. Do you think they walked out that facility with no vest on? You really think that? Why would I send my son out to the world without a fighting chance? That's how I see Sat123. I see Sat123 as the place to go to get the things that I need for connectability and a fighting chance, survival and connectability. You may go there and see something that's fine that you want to do. I'm all for it. I'm just telling you what lens I'm looking at this company and why I'm proud to be a partner with them. Go to sat123.com/JJ or call the number on the screen. All right, I have my guest. His name is Jason James. He has a podcast in Canada called the Brave New Normal Podcast. He is a friend. He is someone I respect. And I just want to I texted him last night and said, hey, this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the UN speech and how you see it as a Canadian. And is there any connectability to what he's speaking in the UN that you are witnessing, living through in Canada? Jason, how you doing, my friend?
It's good to see you, man. How are you?
Good. He and I have this running joke that I'm always in the T-shirt, but whenever he sees me on national TV clip, I'm always wearing a suit and tie. And see how he slums when he comes into my show. Just a T-shirt and his hat on backwards. But I love it.
Do you want to know
That's who we
something
are.
funny? I went on Amazon last night and I was this close to buying a tuxedo T-shirt. But I didn't. I thought nobody's gonna get the joke except for you and me, and so that was it. I'm in a white T-shirt, but you're lucky. I almost wore a tuxedo tee for this interview today.
Well, thank you very much for just coming on our show, and for my audience to know, you have a different perspective on many things. We share a lot in common, but and one thing we share is we're looking at our countries, and we're seeing the beta males are running our countries or have run our countries. And we are living in this very unique time where we're losing our country. We have a demographic shift in America that's overwhelming, and nobody really wants to talk about it because it's race issue. Canada is getting destroyed because your former prime minister and the one that's there now have open borders, because they were allowing these people to come into America. But now the wall's going up and a lot of them are staying. So I wanted to just go through, I have like 4 or 5 clips of Donald Trump, and I just want to get your perspective as a Canadian, looking basically down into America and seeing the impact that it's having on your nation, and what do you think is happening to America from the perspective of being outside of our country. So I want to just play this first clip, number 7. Will you just roll that, Logan, for me? This thing's about a minute long.
Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the #1 political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. The UN is supporting people that are illegally coming into the United States, and then we have to get them out. The UN also provided food, shelter, transportation, and debit cards to illegal aliens. Can you believe that? On the way to infiltrate our southern border. Millions of people came through that southern border. Just a year ago, millions and millions of people were pouring in, 25 million altogether over the 4 years of the incompetent Biden administration. And now we have it stopped, totally stopped. In fact, they're not even coming anymore because they know they can't get through. But what took place is totally unacceptable. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them. In the United States, we reject the idea that mass numbers of people from foreign lands can be permitted to travel halfway around the world, trample our borders, violate our sovereignty, cause unmitigated crime, and deplete our social safety net.
Jason, what do you think about what he's saying about the destruction of our nation? Do you agree with that?
I do. I mean, first and foremost, I don't even know why the UN still exists, because the original purpose for creating the League of Nations was to create a unified body to basically maintain peace amongst nations. The UN has now become a globalist organization that hands down edicts to member nations. I think, I watched the full speech both last night and a little bit again this morning. And the message from Trump there is really clear. He's there, he's giving his speech, he's doing his duty as the president of the United States, but he's indicating that he is in no way a supporter of what the United Nations has been done and is currently doing. Now, in terms of the immigration crisis, I mean, Canada has just been slaughtered by this, right? The estimates of the amount of people that we've added to our population are anywhere from as high as roughly 36% to as low as 12%. But for the viewers watching this, the thing you have to understand is 5% is a lot. 10% is catastrophic. anything above is, you know, I mean, I don't want to sound hyperbolic here, but it's apocalyptic. Your your infrastructures and your economy can't handle that many people. It's just common sense. No matter how compassionate you may be to people from other places who are looking for freedom and looking for a better way of life, you also have to be realistic about how many people that you can introduce into your country. And in Canada, I mean, everything is collapsing, you know. And again, I'm not exaggerating here. I'm not sensationalizing the issue. The job market is collapsing. Our housing market is collapsing. Our currency is worth virtually nothing. And this has to do with the fact that we've added, you know, over 10% of our population to this country in the last 10 years. It's just unsustainable. Now, the reason why a lot of these countries are doing that or are adding so many people is for a very real reason. And it's because middle-class Westerners aren't having children. But we're not having children. I mean, I have 2 children myself, but speaking on behalf of, you know, middle-class people in Western nations, most people aren't having children because they can't afford them. So they need to introduce new people, because eventually you and I are going to get old. We're going to end up on Social Security and pensions and things like that. So somebody has to be paying into the system. And if we're not having children, we're not replacing ourselves. Therefore, we aren't creating the people who are going to keep the system running. But the solution isn't to just add more people. The solution is to lower the cost of living, right? And bring down inflation, which Trump is successfully doing in the United States. But in Canada, we are still ruled by theater kids, by a far left liberal party that refuses to renege on any of its social commitments. So they are refusing to accept that people are struggling. And there's a real sense of malaise in Canada. I mean, we're past the point of like struggle. We are in this period of like real economic and national turmoil. Like, we are very close to flipping the tables and just burning this place down. And I know with Americans, the general view on Canadians is that we're very polite and passive. But, you know, I want you all to know, like, we're a different type of people in that, yeah, we're passive and polite to a point. But when you put us in a corner and we start swinging, they're big swings. And I don't know how much longer we can continue down this road before the straw breaks the camel's back, before something gives.
Are you seeing, like, I wanted to play this, but I didn't grab it. And there's a massive cultural and societal norm clash happening in Canada. And I'll give you an example. Let me just describe what this is. There's a river and lakes, and this is happening all over Canada. And you have Hindus, Indians that are bathing, doing rituals while your fish are trying to reproduce and go through the natural beauty and growth. And they're literally destroying the pristine Canadian landscape. Are you seeing, because of the influx of illegal aliens or legal, however you want to term that in Canada, are you seeing a cultural shift? Are you seeing societal norms being shifted and corrupted?
Absolutely. And that's the purpose. The point is to destroy us culturally. And you're seeing this in all Western nations. Trump is the only one who's stemming the flow. But look, in order for globalism to work, you have to destroy the national identity of these countries. That was the entire point of adding 50 million people to your population under Biden. It's the entire point of adding millions of people to our population under the Liberal Party and Mark Carney. Look, when I say national identity, I'm not talking about white people. I myself, I'm half American Indian. Like, I'm not talking about white people. I'm talking about the pre-existing culture that exists in your country, one that people, when they would previously immigrate to your country, were eager to assimilate to, right? So your national identity isn't a white identity. It's Black, it's Latino, it's Indian, it's everything. But what's happened is through this neoliberal, neo-Marxist ideology that was introduced, you know, across the globe in the Western Hemisphere, you know, over the last 10 years, is that we've been made to believe that our culture is bad and evil and naturally oppressive. And so therefore, rather than, in the past where people would immigrate to your country, the expectation was that they would assimilate into your culture. Now we are expected to degrade our own in order to make way for others. And that's creating a serious cultural clash in Canada. I mean, the thing is a lot of people, they don't identify it as a cultural conflict. What they view it as is racial. So it tends to express itself as what could be interpreted as racism. But what they're really trying to get to is the cultural aspect of things. It's not, I hate these people or I dislike these people because they're Indian. It's, I dislike them because their culture is clashing with my own. Their way of life is impeding on mine. And I'm expected to bend over backwards in order to make way for them, but they're in my country. And that's where the anger really stems from. And so, just like where I am in central Alberta, like we've had millions and millions and millions of, well, not millions and millions, but hundreds of thousands up to upwards of over 1 million Indian immigrants just arrive here. And now the problem is that our cultures are clashing, and because our country is ran by leftist theater kids, we are expected to compromise ourselves on their behalf. And so that's creating real tension in the city where I live and in the surrounding areas. People have had enough.
Well, I believe everything's coming to a head, Jason. I don't think that you can't continue down this road and think that everything's going to be okay. There is going to be a clash. There's going to be a confrontation, and one culture is going to win over the other. That's just human nature. We're not going to run through history in side by side in two parallel universes. They're going to clash and run into each other. This is a perfect example into the next clip that I want to show you. And this is Donald Trump talking about the Islamization of the Western European countries, and they're being devastated. You're being devastated by Islam and by Indian nationals. Same thing has happened in America, but not to the extent of Europe. However, what happens in Western Europe always happens in North America. It just does. We're just about maybe 18 months away from what they're experiencing. Let's listen to Donald Trump talk about this.
Said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, two of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work.
You can cut it there, Logan.
These are the two things.
So you mentioned this earlier. Why do we have a UN? We have the United Nations funded the destruction of Western Europe and the destruction of America's demographics as well as Canada, and they have not stopped any war. It took one man in 7 months to stop 7 wars. So why do we have the United Nations? Do you agree that as you said in the beginning, that we should demolish it, remove it? What we're spending, America's spending up to $14 billion a year while we're suffering. And why do we even have this? This is an outdated model. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree. I think if the UN is going to exist, it has to go back to the original intent, which is the League of Nations, right? The UN has become, like anything else, just a massive global bureaucracy that dictates to smaller nations. I do want to comment on Trump's statement that he ended 7 wars. He ended 7 conflicts. There are 2 wars that really matter right now, and he's done nothing to solve either problem. Right? You have a genocide in Gaza, and for people watching this, I know you're more than likely Christian. I just want you to know I am Christian too. And something I do want to comment on, because I see a lot of Christians supporting this unnecessary invasion of Gaza, this complete obliteration of a group of people. And I know that the Bible is the basis for what you believe and your view on the world. But when the nation of Israel is referenced in the Old Testament, it's referencing a people, not a state. States don't have rights, right? The founding fathers recognized this. That's why they gave rights to the individual, not to the government of the United States of America. The other issue, of course, is you have this invasion of Ukraine, this war between Ukraine and Russia that, as it continues, gets closer and closer to nuclear war or a potential third world war. So although I applaud Trump on his efforts to end these 7 smaller conflicts, he has 2 major ones that he needs to step in and solve, that he's the only person on earth who can fix these problems. And in terms of Russia, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Europe is very invested in keeping that conflict going. And in terms of Israel's invasion of Gaza, Israel is very invested in keeping that going. It's a land grab and nothing more. And, Trump, because of America's historical allyship with Israel, Trump is blindly following behind Netanyahu on this one. And I think what we're seeing, this lends to a larger issue, and I know the question was about the UN, but, Charlie Kirk's assassination, as we're learning more about it, we're coming to realize that the official narrative that is being fed to us via the FBI, DOJ, and others is a lie. Nothing makes sense in their official story. So I think what we have to understand is that this thing is bigger than Trump and anybody in his administration. And going back to your original question, I think that the UN and the globalist groups like the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and the Club of Rome have more to do with why the UN exists and more to do with Trump's direction on geopolitical policy than anything else.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you. Donald Trump has 2 wars that he claimed he was going to stop, and he hasn't. And I believe, thank you for mentioning Charlie Kirk, because there's nothing that makes sense, Jason. Nothing.
JJ, my brother, let me just ask you this question, because you're G.I. Joe. I love you to death, my brother. Like I said, I've always said you are the profile photo of the American hero. You have assembled and disassembled rifles many, many times throughout your life. Would you be capable of assembling, shooting, shooting, getting into a prone position, shooting, disassembling a Mauser rifle, running across a roof, jumping off of it, and reassembling that rifle in a minute?
No. Everything that we've been told is a lie, and I'll go one step further. He was supposed to assemble the rifle when he was on the roof. So when you assemble your rifle, what has to happen? Your scope has to be taken off, or if you're going to keep the scope on, the scope is no longer good, meaning you have to resight your scope so that this phantom little dude with no social media, exactly like the guy that tried to kill President Trump, has no social media. Him and that other guy are the only two 20-somethings that have no social media in the world. And he gets one clean shot at Charlie Kirk and he takes it. And I need people to understand, and it's a great point before I let you go, is for a regular trained sniper has to breathe. It's a breathing technique more than anything, how to shoot. That's how I was trained. You got to breathe. Now, can you imagine you've never done this? You're not a sniper. You're about to kill Charlie Kirk. Your heart would be pounding like a hammer, meaning your breathing would be all over the place, meaning your gun would be constantly going up because it's against your shoulder. It'd be breathing up and down. The idea that that guy shot Charlie Kirk is absurd.
At 200 yards.
Absurd.
At 200 yards, was probably.
Well, Jason, that's an easy shot. If I hear that one more time, that's an easy shot. 200 yards away, that's 2 NFL football fields away, and you're hitting a target the size of my fist. The size of my fist. Okay, I believe it.
See, JJ, just to comment on this really quick, and I got about 10 minutes for you, my brother.
Okay, good.
Just to comment on this really quick, I really resisted the whole conspiracy theory aspect of this for a while. I was seeing, the day after Charlie was shot, all of the stuff start flowing on social media, but there's a lot about this that you can't ignore. I mean, that text thread between the shooter and his trans boyfriend. Yeah. I mean, who wrote that? That's not how people talk. And I think that this again goes to a bigger issue, that there is something bigger that not even Donald Trump can take down. There's something bigger underneath all this. This story that Charlie Kirk was the man of steel and that a 30-odd 6 round was stopped by his neck is insane. It should have blown a hole right through him.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I totally disregarded the whole exit wound theory because I know how the body jolts when it takes a large impact, and a lot of the times the body moves in a direction that you wouldn't expect it to. But now I'm looking at this now my only question is if the hole in his neck is in fact an exit wound, then where did the round go? Because he had a huge crowd of people standing in front of him. That round had to have hit something or stopped somewhere. But the point is we are all now left to speculate, because what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and I attach both their names to it because they are the director and deputy director of the FBI, what they have put out there is very obviously a lie. And so who killed Charlie Kirk and why? And if we sit down and we really think about it and we look at the course of events over the last few years, I think we can put this together. But again, it's one of those things where we are entering a world of confusion in terms of which side we're supposed to be on according to what political ideology we belong to. And I think now is the time for us to put all of that aside and start to realize that we're just all being lied to in some way, shape, or form. And that no matter what you believe or who your political candidate is or what team you're on, as long as we view it through that lens, we're never going to figure this out. And to be honest with you, man, it's gross to me to see this gigantic memorial for a guy like Charlie Kirk and to watch Republican after Republican walk onto that stage and basically give a political speech.
Yeah, with fireworks going off, right?
Right.
It just didn't. Something was off, right? And I don't know really what to call it, but something was off. Here's the biggest accomplishment of the left, Jason, is they have made us all question everything. There's no trust. And my question to you is, does the average Canadian feel the same way you do looking at Charlie Kirk event through the lens of an outsider?
Yes. I mean, what's happening in Canada is actually pretty remarkable. We are kind of at the center of this post-national globalist experiment. And so for the longest time, you had a lot of mainstream Canadians who just followed the official narratives to a T. Canadians love the status quo. They'll follow the status quo into the grave if they have to. But what's happening now is people are starting to break away because their own livelihoods are in jeopardy. You know, in Canada, we have this program where we take on refugees from Ukraine, and our federal government subsidizes companies that hire Ukrainian refugees. Well, what has happened is a lot of these companies have fired their Canadian employees in favor of Ukrainian refugees because those Ukrainian refugees' salaries are subsidized. So, and this is just a small example of a number of things that are happening in this country. So people are beginning to turn. And, you know, JJ, I got to get out of here in a few minutes, but my fear is that we are heading toward a revolution scenario. And I know that sounds like something that would be beneficial for a lot of people who are watching this. And it does seem to me at this point to be our only option. However, if you know anything about revolutions, you know the real danger occurs after the revolution in that power vacuum, right? And so we're in a bad space, man. You know, the world needs more Donald Trump figures. And I'm saying this as somebody who is very critical of Donald Trump. But, you know, JJ, I know that there was one more clip we didn't get to, but I'll speak to it here. You know, Donald Trump closed his speech. A majority of his speech was about the climate change hoax, which lies at the center of all of this. It's central to everything that's happening. It's the big one. It's the big lie. And it is very heartening for me to watch Donald Trump attack it in the way that he is, because that's the one that we need to absolutely eliminate from our societies, from our governments. Every climate change policy that came down in the last 10 years needs to go. And the fact that Donald Trump stood in front of the UN and eviscerated that entire agenda in front of the world is so key. You know, the thing is like, I'm critical of Trump. And, you know, I just went on a rant for, you know, a few minutes about the way that his administration is handling the Charlie Kirk assassination and the clear cover up that's going on. But when it comes to stuff like this, man, oh man, does he ever have it right? And we need more Trumps. We need more populist leaders in the world, because the key to Trump's success, the thing about Trump is that he's a populist president. Therefore, he needs to have the will of the American people on his side in order for what he's doing to work. And that's the right way to run a government, even though he's made mistakes, even though I disagree with the way that this Charlie Kirk assassination and the memorial were handled. I hate the way that I'm seeing this young man's death be politicized. When it comes to the big issues, Trump, he has a very clear view and a clear understanding, and he's not afraid to push against the grain. And we need more leaders like that. America should be thanking their lucky stars that they got that man back in office.
Amen. I think both our countries are at crossroads, and I think as we go, Canada goes. Because if we lose, you will lose. Canada will fall. Let's just pray for the best, but prepare for the worst, my friend. Thank you so much for your time and your perspective from a Canadian looking down on us. Thank you.
Oh, JJ, I love you, brother. I'm down to come on and talk to you anytime. I'll have you back on my podcast soon. I love everything you're about. I love everything you do. You're the real G.I. Joe, my brother. Everybody watching, you're on the right side with the right guy.
And tell everybody where they can find your podcast.
Oh, yeah. You can find me at bravenewnormal.substack.com, on X at JasonJamesBNN, or just search Brave New Normal, Google, YouTube. I come up at the top every time. I don't know why, but Google's SEO is nice to me. So as soon as you search Brave New Normal, I'm right there. But JJ, my brother, I love you. I will have that Tux t-shirt ready for you next time. But it's always good to see you. It's always good to see you, my brother. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, man. Bye-bye. Jason James, Brave New Normal, incredible podcast. I've been on it, I think, 2 or 3 times. Incredible, great discussion, long-form discussion. I think you will love it. Go to Brave New Normal. It's a different perspective where he and I think completely alike, but it's a different perspective coming from a Canadian than from a U.S. citizen. So I think it's great. Follow him. I always love guys that he's a masculine man. He's an alpha male, a boxer. He knows what he knows, and he believes in what he believes. It's refreshing, always refreshing to do that. And it's interesting to hear his take on Charlie Kirk as that is playing itself out. and more people are waking up to the fact that nothing adds up. Nothing adds up. Remember 9/11? If anyone even questioned, like, oh, wait a minute, how did the hijackers fly the plane? Tell me how that. Shut up. 19 hijackers got in a plane and flew it into a World Trade Center. Okay. Same thing now. How did that young man disassemble his gun and put it in his backpack and hide it, but the rifle can't be hidden? Shut up. That's the guy that did it. How did he text in perfect grammar while all that adrenaline's pumping and dumping, Trump pumping and dumping out of his body after he's just murdered somebody, and he's texting all the evidence of his guilt? Shut up. He did it. We're living through all of this again. We're living through the lies again. All of it. We'll never know the truth. Somebody will do some kind of campaign on finding the truth about Charlie Kirk's killer, and then the Senate will come back and say, well, we're not going to disclose any of the information like they did with Epstein. We're living in the same garbage. My other sponsor for the show is Patriots Made. patriotsmade.com/JJ. I just ate my power bar before I came on. It's all natural. It's healthy. Natural ingredients. I ate something that didn't have mRNA, plastics, aluminum in it. Why is that important? I showed you before. You think aluminum and metals and plastics are just in our vaccines, in our pharmaceuticals? Or do you think those same pharmaceutical companies that own food processing plants and food distribution, they're not putting that crap in there? It's already been proven it's true. We're finding plastics in our water. Why do we keep giving companies in the United States of America, big box stores, companies that create these products and sell them in the big box stores, why do we keep giving our enemy money? And they fund Planned Parenthood, Black Lives Matter, defund the police, no King's riots. It's a valid question. Why do you keep doing it? I asked myself that question. And then I made the switch. Like I told my wife, we're going to go here, we're going to shop here. That means that we're not going to buy double. We're going to just spend our money at this company because it's products made in America by Americans for Americans. And they have the same ideology and beliefs as we do. It's a win-win. Go to patriotsmade.com/JJ and get in the fight and be prepared to fight. And one way that you do that is you control your dollars and you choke the enemy financially. And this is the way to do it. I only have about 4 minutes, but I want to talk about this subject. We've talked about it before, but I'm going to dive into it one more time. And I'm going to dive into it many, many more times. And what is that? Because it's happening ad nauseum. Is violent black attacks on whites. And this one, I'm going to show you, this video just went out last night. And this was a concert. And why I'm going to show this is happened in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, basically same place. And this is where I live. And I want you to watch a black teenager violently, brutally attack this poor old man. That's just all he did was ask him, hey, you're in the wrong seat. Can you please go to the correct seat? That was enough for a black kid, young man, to pummel and beat an old white man. Now, there's two things I want you to focus on. One, the brutality, the absolute brutality. Like if I got in a fight with an older man and I punched and knocked him out, I would not stand over him beating him in his face. The brutality. And the second thing I want you to watch is every single person just stands there and watches and films it. This is America, and this is the race of violence that we are now witnessing every single day in America. Unbelievable. Can you please pull up this next post for me? And this is a Ukrainian girl getting stabbed. I'm not going to show you the video. This is the moment that her life ended. A half a second more, she'll be stabbed multiple times in her neck. And all the politicians, the Van Jones, all the race hustlers like him and the politicians say, you guys are racist for saying he just killed a white girl. There's two issues here. He did kill a white girl. He said that he got the white girl, and there were blacks all sitting around him. Why didn't he kill the black girl, black lady to his right? He didn't kill the black woman to his right because she's black. He killed the beautiful young white woman because she's beautiful and white. And again, if I played this clip out, you will watch a young beautiful woman bleeding to death as every single person watches. Now, why do we have this? Well, it's because the black leaders, as Ghetto Jasmine Crockett says, watch this. This is why they why they do what they do. Play this, please.
I understood what was kind of pushing them there. And so I do want people to know that just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal. That is completely different. Being a criminal is more so about your mindset. Committing a crime can come for a lot of different reasons.
Oh, really, Ghetto? And you know what makes me more sick and angry is this stupid long-haired white guy going, yes, you're so smart, Jasmine Crockett. Wake up, America. We are being destroyed from within because we have people that run our country, that hate our country, that have divided us. Pick a side, pick wisely, because we are in the violent phase, the very ultra-violent phase, and it's going to get much, much darker. Prepare.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste putting it in my mouth and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. 1 scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gatatiana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
All right, welcome to Code Blue. This is Dr. John and Brooke. It is September the 24th, 2025. I apologize for my video here. I am not in my home office. I am away, but so we want to talk about what happened a couple days ago. Trump made a big announcement. This was the press conference that he talked about several months ago, that he wanted Kennedy to have this time during September to find out what's been causing autism. So that was what this press conference was all about. That's what it was kind of worked up to be. And so with that, let's watch this video here, about 6 minutes worth. And can you